Our next panel is on hijab, bodily autonomy and women's rights. It's chaired by Lisa Marie Taylor, Ilyas CEO. Welcome. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, I'm not staying here on my own. Come on, up you come. Have we got everybody? Welcome, welcome. I'm rubbish with names and faces, so I was going to ask them all to sit in the order that their photos were up. But apparently we've got a tech issue for the first 5 minutes, so are you all happy? You all okay? Okay. So welcome, everybody. I'm Lisa Marie, and I am with an organisation called Philia, and we're a women's rights, thank you, Pragna, thank you, feminist organisation. And we work to amplify the voices of women, and we say particularly those less often heard or purposefully silenced. And I'm only going to take a minute for an anecdote, which is when Mariam has come and spoken, Pragna's been and spoken, there are a couple of others of you in the audience as well. And the first time Mariam spoke, she stood up and she said, I've never been invited to speak at a mainstream, I take objection to that, but anyway, a mainstream feminist conference, and my jaw hit the ground. So this isn't my area of expertise. I've learned so much this morning, but it seems self-evident to me that secularism, atheism, anti-theism is a feminist issue, and we have to be talking about this, and we have to be building those links, those solidarity between the two types of organizations and so on and so forth. So this session is called Hijab, Bodily Autonomy and Women's Rights. I've been told to keep the biogs of these fantastic speakers brief, so I'm just going to say a sentence or two about them. And in full feminist fashion, we've worked out how we're going to do this collectively. So that's good. So I'm going to do a couple of lines about each of the speakers, and then I'm going to tell you how it's going to go, and we'll try and fit in time for Q&A as well at the end. So, Fauzia. Ilyas is founder of the Atheist and Agnostic Alliance for Pakistan, which provides a platform and support to ex-Muslims, atheists in Pakistan, and aims to normalize being able to leave and to criticize Islam. Now, I'm going to take 30 seconds because Fauzia asked me specially to say something, and I would like a round of applause after this, please. So, Fauzia's studies were stopped during her childhood due to family pressure and an early marriage. She decided to stand up and continue her studies, which she has done in the Netherlands, and she has just completed a law degree. And she says...
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And she says, a bit premature there, Mariam, I hope this achievement will be a clear message to all the girls and women. Never give up, you can do it. So, congratulations. Annie, you've met earlier on, so founder, co-president of Freedom from Religion Foundation, which is an umbrella organisation for those who are free from religion and committed to the separation of church and state. What I liked when I was reading about you was that you are called a third-generation free thinker, and I love that, so that's great. We've got apologies from Huzan, apologies from Hazar. Sara, is it Sara or Sarah? Which do you prefer? You don't mind, Sara. Sara Nabil, who's an artist, you can see some of her work outside, an artist from Afghanistan who uses her art to denounce women's oppression in her home country. So welcome all of you. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start by hearing Rana's story. Then we're going to move on to some questions that have been posed for the panel. I have to say, Mariam, wherever you are, we could have a whole conference on each of those questions, actually, but we'll do the best we can with the time that we have. So, and then if we've got time, we'll open up to Q&A. So Rana is founder of Atheist Refugee Relief, which... I've read that already, have I? No, provides practical assistance to refugees without religion to improve their living conditions through political work. A Syrian women's rights activist, ex-Muslim, born in Saudi Arabia, who fled to Germany in 2015. And we're going to hear your story. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Mariam Namazi. I love you a lot, and I love all your work you do. I need to start like in this way. For talking about my story and about hijab. until now, after 5 or 6 years living without hijab, without niqab, without covering my body, sometimes when I walk in street, I see my reaction in the shop or the mirror, and I look to myself and I said, it's me. It's me without nothing. It's me. Sometimes I feel afraid because I see someone different, but from other side, I feel it's like I am here, I don't cover myself, I am proud about myself that I achieved this moment, and I feel also that I want to share this feeling with all the women in the Muslim and Arab country that they are forced to wear hijab, forced to wear niqab, forced to cover themselves. The most something painful I see it in Europe that children headscarf. It's unacceptable. Is it unacceptable to see a children wearing hijab? For me, because I wore hijab when I was 11 years old, I don't know how the society can respect themselves when they allow the children to wear that. I hope in the future it will be forbidden and it will be like not illegal that. The children have the right to live like a normal and they have the right to join them childhood. About niqab also I want to say something. When I work here in Con, sometimes I see women covering them face. I feel sorry for that. I feel like I need to talk with this woman, but I respect her privacy. From other side, I feel like why the women, they don't know how they are them amazing, how them body is like beautiful, why we need to cover ourselves because this ideology, because someone, they don't control themselves. For me, like when I see a woman covering themselves, I feel like the man, they can't control themselves. If they see the women working without hijab or without a headscarf, they will like react like animals. And that's the idea, and that's my opinion about hijab. Every moment I am now not covering myself, it's like wonderful moment. In the summer, like now, we need to wear something like fit in this weather and like enjoying this weather. So thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to say a little bit more about your journey to here? How did you feel when you got here? And how's it been for you? And getting involved in activism the way you've done as well?
When I come to Germany, it was like 3 years planning to leave Saudi Arabia. I feel now like Germany is my country. I have a little bit like a strong connection in this country. Starting doing this work, starting to be active in ex-Muslim and atheism, it was from inside that I feel like we need to do a lot to support our community. We need to do a lot to support women. We need to do a lot to support also women. They come to Germany. Like example, when the women come here alone, without family, without anyone, and she need really our support, and she have like depression and other stuff. So I feel like I can't sit at home not doing anything, and yeah, that's why I start to do this activism, and I am like happy to have secular Flüchtlingshilfe, atheist refugee relief, like the first organization helping atheists and ex-Muslim in Germany. I want to thank Giordano Bruno Stiftung to support us from the beginning. Michael Schmidt-Salomon. It's to have this organization here in Germany and doing this work. We are like, until now we help like 100 people in Germany and 600 people outside, giving support and information. For me, doing this work, it's like from the beginning, when I get support from our community, from Mariam Namazi, from Armin, from all the amazing people, how they support me in the beginning, I feel I need to do the same with other people, and I need to start this work. Yeah.
Thank you, that's wonderful. Can we get some, have you got any more water? Thank you. So I think I find this in the feminist movement too. Women who've been through so much and hearing the stories here today, and they come through so much and they come out the other end and they turn around and go, right, now what can I do to help others? And that's phenomenal. I'm really picking that up here. And a few things that I've heard talked about in the background, somebody was saying, there's so many atheists, it's great. And at feminism as well, the feminist conference, like there's so many feminists, we're surrounded by feminists and atheists. It's absolutely incredible atmosphere. Thank you so much. So these very easy, simple questions that have been posed for us. The last one I only saw last night, and that's a very interesting addition. I'm hoping we're going to get to that because it's very pertinent in the UK at the moment. So let's start at the beginning. So what are the contradictions between women's rights and religions? This is a huge question. So take it as you like. So your expertise, your geographical area, just general area of interest. And we might see if there are any contributions from the floor as well to add to this. So would you like to go first?
Yes, sure. So first of all, I just wanted to tell something more about myself because I think it's really interesting topic today as it relates to hijab and, women autonomy. So I grew up in the family where I always instructed to cover my face and also my head, so I was never supposed to come in front of any stranger, which was not the case for my brothers, for example, and also for my father. So just had that question in my mind that why me only, yeah, or my sisters, for example, or each woman in our society or in our family, why not? Why they are not supposed to cover their face or their head? So, to discover myself was really important that time. And I thought I should go into it and I should discover myself. And then, it was also some kind of problem in the family and also in the society because Islam, it relates directly to Islam because Islam tells you to do that, to cover your face, to cover your head, and to not come in front of strangers, for example. Islam, I think itself is a contradiction with women's rights, where it suppresses women and it gives authority to men more than women. We women are not treated in the same way as men are treated. So I think this idea of hijab or niqab is directly connected to Islam and then our society. Wonderful. They just had these ideas and they had adopted these ideas and they had become such a so-called norms in the society. And then they, they impose those kind of tags on the woman and they have to obey these rules, which I was not ready to take them anymore. And I was the one, I think, in the family who raised questions about the niqab or the hijab. We were even not allowed to pick up the phone, to go to the door to check who is knocking at the door. So these kind of things. And I know many women in Pakistan, for example, or in Islamic countries, they are still facing it. They are not allowed. And most interestingly, a man, he can have 4 wives at a time, but women cannot. And why not? These ideas, these instructions, we are getting directly from Islam, and we cannot separate this idea from Islam and the women's rights. So itself, it is connected directly to the Islam, and then society has merged those so-called norms in us, and they are trying to control us. Why to control our bodies and ourselves and our, our face and head? No, I have a beautiful hair. I don't want to cover them. Excuse me, yes, please. So, yeah, these are the ideas which our society basically takes directly from the Islam. That's the point. And I was not ready to take them anymore. So, yeah, so that's why I am who today I am, in the way.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And this is where we come back to, we're not fighting for equality. We're coming back to what Pragna said earlier on about systems of power and taking those down, because quite frankly, I don't want 4 husbands. That's not what we're fighting for. So does anybody else want to add to this question of what are the contradictions between women's rights and religion? Because this is big. Have you got anything you would like to add?
Well, sure. I wrote a book about the sexism in the Bible called Woe to the Women. The Bible tells me so. That's, of course, a phrase from the Bible. And all the major patriarchal religions, of course, are predicated on women's subjection. I mean, it's a cornerstone of all of the major patriarchal religions. I don't know as much about the Hindu, but we certainly are talking about as long as male is God, God is male, to quote Catholic theologian Mary Daly. And, it is a contradiction. The more liberal branches of Christianity that have moved forward with women's rights haven't done so because of their religion. They've done so because of women insisting that they reform their religion. And when you look at the history of feminism and you look at the history of Freethought, it's the same continuum. It's the women, freethinkers, rebels, heretics, the unorthodox, who refused, as my panelists have, to subjugate themselves to their religion, that have started and fomented the women's movement. And I think this is true, internationally, and it certainly was true in the United States with the suffrage movement, which was largely started and initiated by the women freethinkers, such as Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who wrote the Woman's Bible. So one of the reasons I'm a freethinker is because I'm a feminist, and I think that is often the case.
Hello. Yeah.
Would you like to add something to that?
Yes, of course. So I think from my point of view, the most and the biggest contradiction between religion and women's rights is that the religion, all of religions. So I'm going to say about Islam because I born in an Islamic country and I grew up also with such as idea, but luckily I don't believe anymore in these beliefs. The most and the biggest problem is that the religion, they give the rights for the woman under the religion, and it makes so the women are the loser because the religion define the woman's right under the religion, under Sharia and under the Quran, and this is the sentence that they restrict and limited the woman's really even. And also the another problem is that the religion is really old and it's not any more it's not more responsive for today's needs, especially for women. And for me, this is the two most contradictions that between religion and women's right.
Okay. So, and I think earlier on as well, someone was talking about tactics. I think Jimmy said strategy actually, but I'm going to use the word tactics. The same tactics are used to silence us and to control us and this, that and the other. And you were talking about commonalities between the religions in the way they subjugate women, but also some of these tactics being used, and like you say, for thousands of years. I read somewhere actually that one of the first laws was carved into stone, and it was saying something like, what was it? Because silencing us as well is about bodily autonomy, stopping us from actually speaking, using our words, and freedom of thought, and this, that, and the other. And some of the oldest laws carved into stone, it says something like, one of you will know this, you can correct me, something like, if a woman speaks out of turn to a man, she can have her teeth smashed with a fired brick, and that fired brick must be hung at the city gate. This has been going on for thousands of years, and we have to be able to speak as women. That's also some way that our bodily autonomy is not respected. So shall we move on to the next question? So how do women challenge these and attain bodily autonomy and rights? And we're going to write the answers down, and then we're going to be free from patriarchy in the next few weeks while we implement these ideas. So how are we doing this? We've got artists, we've got writers, how are we going to do this? Who wants to go first? It's another big question. Or how are you doing it? How are you doing it?
Well, as I told earlier that first I just rejected these ideas that no, I'm not going to cover myself. And moreover, I think I am just trying to educate other women and also girls, because they don't need to cover themselves just because Islam says so or any other religion says so. No, you don't have to do that. I mean, it's a time to discover yourself. If you are not doing it, believe me, it's going to give you trouble. Do not get controlled by other people. That's really important. Because in the beginning, when I see, as Rana, she also mentioned already that I also see little girls, they had covered their heads and also sometimes their faces. And it's shocking for me, because a little girl kids, they are vulnerable. They cannot take decisions by themselves. That's why there is a certain age to reach, and then there they can take decisions. So it all started from the homes, I believe, because parents, especially mothers, they give instructions to their daughters, for example, to cover your face or to cover your head and then go outside, or you cannot go outside. Why not? Let them reach, because yesterday I had an interview with a magazine, and there was also a question, what if your daughter choose to do that? And I told them, look, I am just giving her time to discover herself. I'm not going to put her in any specific way or to show her any specific direction. No. What I'm going to do, because me and my husband, we have just prepared our mind that how we are going to raise our children in a way so they can be a good person, for example. So we are going to tell them that, yeah, what is wrong, what is right. Do whatever you want to do. And I'm not going to tell my daughter that you have to cover your face. No, she does not need that. And also, this is a clear message for all the parents and also for women, mothers especially. Because what you do, you just put the little hijabs on little girls' head, and then what you are doing, you are just taking their self-identity from them. You are not letting them discover themselves, you know? So that's the way, just let them do and choose the way what they want, and that's important for them. It's not like you are doing them, you are putting them in a certain direction, and then, because once I remember I told a question to a little girl, and she was, she was covering her face and, her head, and she had a little, how do you say, Quran here, like this, and she was, going to a mosque. In the Netherlands, we say mosque. And then I asked her, it was really sad to see her in that situation. And it's a warm weather. And I asked her, and she said, well, we are Muslims. She was like 7 or 8 years old. Okay, that makes sense. But then I saw, look, there are many women, many girls, they are Muslims, but they do not take hijab. Well, my mother says so. That was so disturbing answer for me. It all started from our homes. We don't need to put that tag or specific tag, because maybe we do not realize that at this point, but intentionally or unintentionally, what we are doing, we are taking their self-identity away from them. And it's really bad for the children, I think. So what I'm trying to do, I'm just, giving certain directions to other people and telling them, okay, you are not in the right age maybe, so you can decide when you just reach to a certain age, let's say 17 or 18, and then there you can make decisions. And I have same plans for my daughter as well. So I had made clear it already yesterday during the interview. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So Annie, there's a lot going on in America at the moment around bodily autonomy, isn't there, for women?
Yes,
around abortion, things change every day. I can't keep up. There was another announcement this morning, and states are going backwards and forwards, and this fight is on. So you said that what you wanted to do with our time today is you wanted to take a few minutes to update everyone and to answer that question, how do women challenge to attain bodily autonomy?
Yeah, well, basically, the way that we challenge this religion control over women is to make sure that we have separation of religion and government. I recognize that doesn't always completely impact private Muslims who are worshiping and putting the hijab on, but certainly when it's required, we see these kinds of Islamist laws in Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and so on. It's absolutely incumbent that we keep religion out of government. And what really caused my mother and myself to form the Freedom from Religion Foundation almost 45 years ago was my mother's early work as an abortion rights pioneer. And we saw, I was in junior high school, trailing around after her, we saw so clearly that the only organized opposition to abortion rights and the right to contraception in the United States was organized religion, primarily Roman Catholic, also the evangelical Protestants, Orthodox Jewish to a small degree, the Mormons, working hand in hand to deny women bodily autonomy based on their religious beliefs that supposedly there's an ensoulment at conception, and the conceptus is a full human being, more important than the woman carrying it, but mostly based on women's subjection, the idea that we shouldn't have bodily autonomy or control over our bodies. And we have seen Roe versus Wade passed, this important decision in 1973 by our Supreme Court. And I'm sure you read the news that on June 24th, our supermajority extremist Christian nationalist Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. And within a minute, in my state of Wisconsin, the 4 abortion clinics either closed or stopped doing abortion care. And now there are 14 states out of 50 where abortion is banned or almost entirely banned, not even for cases of rape or incest. And by the end of the year, half our states will have banned abortion. And when you look at the map, especially if you're in the South or the Southeast, low-income women simply will not be able to travel the distances required to get to the free states, as I'm calling them. It's like slave states and free states, to get abortion care. So, I mean, there's nothing more sacred than being able to decide if or when to become a mother or parent, whether to continue a pregnancy, because all your other rights are dependent on that. If you can't control your body, you can't control your pregnancies, you can't make other life choices. So we're in a lot of trouble in the United States right now due to the takeover of our courts under the Trump administration. And there's no clear solution. To try to make sure the Democrats stay in power is one solution, and get more justices on the lower courts, but the Supreme Court is a life appointment. So we have 6-3 anti-abortion, and next to go will be LGBTQ rights. They are going after the 2015 decision allowing marriage equality. And all of the states are introducing the same kinds of punitive laws against LGBTQ that they were introducing against abortion. And birth control, the right to contraception, is now equally endangered. So it's, I hope it won't affect people globally, but I can't help but feel that if we lose protections that we have for LGBTQ, this is going to have a huge impact globally too. So the moral of this story is keep religion out of government. We have a Christian nationalist minority rule going on in the Supreme Court. So we are fighting it as best we can.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So we've got about how to bring up our children. There's lots of organising going on in America around that, and there's something around. Coming back to what you said, pregnancy, there's something about the structure as well, and that we're maybe not quite touching on, and I'm not an expert, I don't know how to bring that in. But I think there's solidarity, we've got to show solidarity among ourselves as women in this case, across areas as well. So like I said earlier on about the secularism and the feminism, and show solidarity where we can across different activisms, I suppose. But we have to keep coming back to structure and power and focus on power and how and that's a really, really big, tough job. Another way of challenging is through art. So over to you, because you wanted to talk about your latest exhibition, and some examples are outside. And how have you been challenging women's oppression back in Afghanistan?
Yeah, so I would like to first, before I talk about my recent work on my exhibition, so talk a little bit about Afghanistan. I'm not sure how many familiar you are with the situation that right now going in Afghanistan, especially for women. It's horrible, I have to say. It's really horrible, and I have to say we are facing right now, we faced also lots of challenges in the last 20 years that we had at least a democratic government, and we had the woman at least had some rights. But right now, since the Taliban got the power in 2021, 15 of August, the women even my gut. Okay. No. Yeah, because it's sad what's going on there. Yeah, and right now the Afghan women lost their all rights, even the fundamental rights. The girls from 6th class, they couldn't go to school. It's the Taliban banned education for the women in Afghanistan. And I think Afghanistan is the only country right now that even girls or women couldn't go to school. Yeah, there is some places maybe, but not like Afghanistan, a government where so 20 years, so lots of countries, the whole world were there. And it's not just the education, there is a travel ban, the women, they couldn't work, they are not able to participate in politics and also in society in different sections. This is the situation, what's going on in Afghanistan. And talking about the bodily autonomy, it's difficult because you're how to say, you're working for women's rights in a country that even the women doesn't have their fundamental right, and it makes more challenges and make this way more harder. But yeah, I'm coming to my work as an artist. What it's not here written, I'm also activist, especially for women's rights and human rights. And I start my activities since as I was 14. I start first with art and second with my activities, because I think we are women in the whole history. We have very similar history, but with some difference. For me, as I born just before 1 year for the Taliban, and the first time they got the power in 1969. Till 21, I brought my childhood under the Taliban regime, the most worst government, and there was always for me different world in the house. I have to say my parents they are not secular, but they are liberal, and it was completely different world. So inside the house and outside of the house, the outside, the society was completely different as. In my house, but this was I'm really lucky that I was born in this family, because I got lots of things from my parents, and then I encourage or I start to working for this for the other peoples. So as an artist and also activist, recently I had exhibition in Künstler Mannheim. This is an art museum in Mannheim. And I make a work that you will going to see it after this, when we are going to finish with the panel. I did a performance, and because what's going on Afghanistan, it directly affected me and had influence on me. And I'm also in contact with 2 big communities in Afghanistan, artists and also women rights activists. And every day I'm getting, so how the situation is horrible, and how hard is to be a woman and under the regime, so Taliban. They are terrorists on the Islamic groups. So as a human, I prefer to, the people call me first, I'm a human. Before that I'm a woman, I'm a human. And it makes me also, yeah, so before that I go. And I did this performance. And this performance is about, since 1 year, the Taliban gradually, but really fast, they completely removed the woman from the society, as they covered their faces and their bodies with long hijab. I'm not sure what is this, but they call this as hijab. Like this, they also removed them from the society. And I said, okay, what can I do as an artist and the same time as an activist? And I did this performance. On this performance is about the, I have my protest, and I'm standing against all the rule on laws which are coming, first of all, from religion, second, from the governments, and third, from the patriarchy society, that they are limiting women, and at the same time, they are making separations, and the woman, they are bringing more pressure, and this is about, this protest or this performance is about this topic.
So I think you're hearing that there are many different ways of fighting and of doing activism. And we're having a conversation before and making sure we're having those conversations out there, because the journeys that you've all taken and that we've heard earlier on and we're going to hear later are hard enough. But you need to know you actually can make that journey, if that makes sense. So I didn't find feminism till I was 39. No one mentioned feminism. So if no one mentions atheism, that it's even an option. So we need to keep talking where it's safe to do so. We just need to keep having those conversations so that when somebody's ready, they know there's an alternative way of looking at the world. So let's keep having those conversations. So, okay, this question, I think we know the answer to this. Someone touched on it earlier on. What is the purpose of the hijab and burqa? Anybody want to do this in one sentence? And I might ask a couple from the audience as well.
The purpose for me is only controlling the women and wishing them brain that they are not equal to the man. They see themselves not equal to the man, and they keep this idea inside them. And niqab, special niqab, they remove the woman from the society. You don't see her feeling, you don't see her emotional, you don't see her face. It's completely out from the society. And the hijab or niqab is the same idea.
Does anybody want to add to that? Has anyone got anything different to say?
Okay, so far what I see actually, it is, as you also mentioned, that it is a tool to control women because, you know, when you just put some kind of tag on a woman, so you are trying to control them. Why it is not for the men? Why we are always being, you know, told to cover our face and our head, for example, and our body. That's not important. I don't see them in this way. And it has also influence, if I talk about my country, Pakistan, so there is influence of these Islamic clerics, for example. So what they are doing, you know, if government of Pakistan try to take any decision, then these Islamic clerics, you know, they just get active and they create mess, and they do not let those leaders or the decision makers to take any decision for the woman, for example. I don't know, I still have doubts in the government of Pakistan, but still, you know, they are there to take decisions for the betterment of Pakistan and also the women. But yeah, it is not, they are not letting them happen. So most important thing is, if the state and the religion is separate, you know, and these mullahs, for example, or the Islamic clerics, if they have less influence in the politics of any state, let's say, in Pakistan, for example, so maybe we can expect some achievements and also some betterment for the society, but it's not the case. What you are doing, you are trying to pass those rules to make decisions on behalf of these authorities, you know, and you are trying to control women in that way. And that's not a nice thing. I think this is the worst part there. So it shouldn't happen, but unfortunately, I'm not seeing any difference, or because recently I was reading a news in the newspaper, and I was reading that women in Pakistan, now they are trying to introduce a new dress code in Pakistan in colleges and also in schools, and they are saying like women need to cover their head and, for example, their face. And this is the situation of our educational institutions in Pakistan. I don't know if it's the same in our neighbors in India, or I don't believe it. It shouldn't happen, but yeah, you know, it is growing. So why these decisions are coming from these Islamic clerics? They have a lot of influence in the politics of Pakistan. And now in this way, they are also trying to control women. And what they are doing, they are making them normal, which is not normal in my opinion. And shouldn't be normal in any way. No, never.
Thank you. Sara, is there anything you want to add to that? Sara, is there anything you would add to that? What is the purpose of hijab and burqa?
I think the first thing, it's the controlling of women. And second thing, always when I'm on the street and I'm seeing a woman with a hijab or the full hijab, there is also lots of hijabs. It's not just a scarf. There is niqab. There is makna. I think it's in Iran, if I'm not saying wrong. And also it's the full covered with the burqa. Yeah, of course. That I didn't forget this. Don't forget burqa, what the Taliban said right now, and it is officially, and I have to say it was so, for me, it hurts me because as I did the performance on 4th of May in Kunsala Mannheim, just after this, one day after this, the Taliban officially make a dress code for the women, and it was again this burqa. And on coming back to the purpose, when I'm always saying the people, especially man and woman, they are walking on the street, and I'm seeing the man is completely free, have a t-shirt and also shirt with flip-flops, and beside of him, I'm seeing the woman that he's completely, sometimes it's really horrible, that he's completely in 40 degrees or the 83 degrees here, that's completely covered with a black hijab, and you couldn't see the face of the woman. It's terrible, really, it's terrible. And when I'm saying, and it makes me angry also that I can't do anything, and it hurts me what I'm saying, because I know that this woman is suffering, and so with this hijab. And it's for me, this picture, it's a sign of power of this patriarchy, and power that men wouldn't, or that would like to never lose it. And that's why they are always, even sometimes they know, because it's her, it's his woman or his mother or the girl, because they know they are going to lose their power, first in the home, and second in the society. They were never support the empowerment of the woman or the woman's right. And that is right now what's happening in Afghanistan. You are just seeing the women that they are going on the streets and they are fighting for their rights. Actually, it's not just for their rights. They are fighting for the whole country, but they are just alone. No one is, I didn't see anyone in last 1 year that they give a company for them and support them. This is only women, because the men on the power, also they have fear. They have fear to lose their power to the woman and also in the society.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We have a Filia volunteer in Afghanistan who's decided to stay, and it's very interesting that over the past year, at the beginning, she was very much, it will be okay, and then gradually you can hear that those rights are being taken away. She's being challenged a little bit more on her way to work. She's being asked a little bit more about covering up, and she's trying to negotiate with the Taliban for tiny bits of spaces where she can bring women and girls into, and she's having those negotiations, but then she's also being vilified for that. So there's a whole conversation around that as well. So women in the audience, the women that I know, I'm thinking Pragna, I'm thinking Mariam, Khadija. Is there anything you want to add to that question? What is the purpose of hijab and burqa that we've missed? Pragna. And I think it's worth saying as well that coming from the feminist side of things, we tie ourselves in knots over this so-called Western feminist white feminist. We tie ourselves in knots. We've got, you cannot be a feminist if you wear a hijab. Hijab is a feminist statement. I heard that in the same meeting room. So we're not opening to Q&A yet, but I am interested to get a little bit more from the audience about what is the purpose of hijab and burqa, particularly from women. Pragna.
No, I agree with you. I think the purpose of any of these dress codes that are imposed on women is about the control of female sexuality. It's at the core of all these fundamentalisms, including Christian fundamentalism, Hindu fundamentalism, Sikh, Jewish, Muslim. It's also about removal of women from society, and everybody's articulated all of that really well. What I wanted to say, though, is for someone who's worked as a feminist for 40 years, it was never like this. There was a time, and I call that time pre-Rushdie period, when, you know, there was, due to feminist struggles all over the world, globally, there were gains feminists made. Roe versus Wade is one of them. and there are others, many others. What pains me is when I see photos of the 60s, perhaps even early 70s, in places like Kabul, Lebanon, Beirut, or Karachi, or India, when women were freer, when they were not wearing the hijabs, they were not wearing the niqabs, they were not wearing any kind of religious dress codes imposed unless they were traditional. But we've seen a backlash against feminism post-Rushdie, and the whole ideology, fundamentalist ideology, the right wing in all religions have used the opportunity, and I call it a political project, but they've used the opportunities that they've been given and the increasing powers to remove women's rights. And in all of these situations, the state has been complicit. And which is why you have a situation in America where a Supreme Court that is majority Christian, anti-abortion, can overturn something that women have fought for so many years overnight. And that's what pains me about the struggles that we wage, is I never thought in my lifetime I would see that we would lose our struggles, we would lose the gains we've made. We might not build upon them as much as we want. I never thought I would see us lose these gains. And I have, you know, and I've still got a long way to go, I hope. But I've seen the ways in which feminist struggles and the gains that we've made have been lost, are being lost. And they are tied to political projects in which women are also used as instruments to symbolize communal identity, to symbolize national identity, and are used to build a vision of nationhood that is based on the removal of women, or you know, or symbolize community identity based on the removal of women. And I think it's going to take a huge, huge effort from all of us, from women, but also male allies, to really defend these gains, because we must. And that's why I think that, you know, freedom of speech is a feminist issue, secularism is a feminist issue, Rushdie is a feminist issue.
Thank you. So you see what I did there? I knew that if I brought Pragna in, she would articulate brilliantly all the things that are whizzing around in my head that I can't kind of find the words for. So yes, thank you. Great contribution. So before we come to the audience, I just want to check, is there anything else that any of you would like to contribute before we hand over to the audience?
I want to thank every woman in the Arab or Muslim country trying to fight for her right and other right and put her life in danger, especially in Iran. For me, the women in Iran, they are inspiring all the women in other country. They know they get in the jail. They know they get killed. They know everything, but still they go the street, they remove them hijab, they fight, they publish all the photo. When I see that, I feel like I am a little bit small near to the women. And fighting for our right is not only doing that, it's like also helping each other complete the feminist work, and not feeling that we do enough. Yeah.
Is there anything else any of you three want to contribute before we open up to questions, and maybe have a think about how do we address feminists who ally with the religious right? Now, I want to bring in the audience, but the selfish bit really wants this, because this is an issue at the moment in the UK. But I want to check that you have all, I don't want any of you to go away going, I wish I'd said something. Is there anything else that you really, really want to say while you're here? Not right now. Okay, good. Then my job is done. That's great. So how do we address feminists who... Oh, yes, go on.
So I think it was 2 days before I yeah, you know, it was 15th of August, so just 5 days ago, and a German media would like to have an interview with me, and one of question, it was, for me, it was somehow funny. She asked me that how it's possible to, let me think about, if the women rights get better under the Taliban regime, and I just laughed and say, I'm really sorry, I didn't see any possibility under the regime or under the rule of the people, those who even don't believe in human rights, on women's rights, and making this situation better, especially for women, it's not coming in the question. So in the same time, feminism and religion, I think there is a lots of big gap between these two. That's I think everyone knows better than me what's religion, and especially when we are coming in terms of women's rights, what the religion say about the women's rights, and what's the feminism. And that's why I would like to also first say that I think that was a maybe misunderstanding. So I see a big gap between these two, because religion at all, they are trying to limit it, they are trying to make more restriction. I know from Islam, so when you just read the Quran and the Sharia and Hadith, it's all, they're just putting lots of pressure on the woman, making lots of rules and laws that restrict the woman. This is the only thing. And at the same time, when you're talking about the civil rights and human rights and women's rights with democratic values, I think it's not coming together. It's difficult, and there's lots of gap between these two. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And Mariam, we need to do another feminist conference and secular conference together, and we'll just spend a week trying to sort of sort all of this stuff out. So okay, I'm going to deny myself the last question, which is the one I really want the answer to, because like I say, that's very pertinent at the moment in the UK. And let's open it up for the next 7-8 minutes to the audience for contributions, but I really want to ask you to take advantage of the fact that we've got these incredible women up here, so I'd really appreciate if you've got a question on the end of it as well, and I am going to go to women first. And you have a question? Even better.
Hi, first of all, I just want to express my immense amount of respect for all of you here. I have a controversial question, slightly devil's advocate-y. Speaking about the situation of women in Afghanistan, to my knowledge, no government has so far recognized the Taliban's government. And many of the sanctions that have been imposed upon this new regime are with the primary intention of, for the sake of women's rights. However, we do need to be very conscious of the fact that the economic sanctions that are being imposed upon the country are absolutely devastating. Something like 97% of Afghans are now struggling with food security. So my question is, for the sake of promoting women's rights to education, free dress, are we creating a situation of more harm where they are now starving, forced to sell their own daughters to marriage to be able to feed their other children, forced to sell organs? How do we deal with this contention? Are we, for the sake of women's rights, actually doing more harm to women? I would love to hear your reaction to this.
Okay. First of all, I have to correct something, that the Taliban is still not recognized by the world community. It's not just because of women's rights. If someone thinking like this, it's completely wrong, I have to say, with lots of respect. There is lots of other issues, so that the Taliban didn't get till now recognition, because, and also we don't forget they are a terrorist group. And they are doing still terror. They didn't change, and they didn't learn from their failure what they did in 25 years in Afghanistan. And recognizing of these people, it means you are also part of this terror regime that will going to be established. And you are the people, at the same time that you are talking about human rights, democratic values, and then recognizing these people, then it means that you are also terrorists. So Yeah, but this is the it means we are bringing, it's horrible situation right now in Afghanistan. The 99% of the country, the people are having hunger, so starvation. More than 22 million people, maybe in 6 months, they will not having enough food, or 6 million people are going to be die with coming of winter. It's really hard, but in the same time, if the Taliban giving the power, what will be going to, then Afghanistan going, it's right now completely forgotten by the world and everyone. And on that time, when the terrorists get the power, I'm sure it's not only now hunger. So it's a big threat for the whole country, the hunger and starvation. But in the next year, it would be not only Afghanistan treated by the Taliban, the whole world, then maybe we will have the same situation. So 11th of September would be going to again repeat it. So that's why this is, but right now also they are just, there's lots of humanitarian aids, then they are going to keep it separate from giving the recognition for Taliban. And I'm sure there's lots of way to help these people right now in this situation without giving recognition for the Taliban. And if the world is honest and how to say, they are working honestly with the people, then they can find lots of way, and there is lots of way without giving recognition. It's not just a reason to, because of hunger, because of disaster, that's human disaster or the human crisis, we should give them recognition. I'm completely against this, because there's lots of way.
And we've got a question in the middle there.
I want to add something here, because when you say that, first of all, never underestimate the power of a woman, you know. When we say that there is a problem or problematic situations going on inside a country, let's say if in Afghanistan, for example, you know why it is situation? Because it is also connected to the idea of freedom and also the personal autonomy and bodily autonomy and, you know, hijab, these so-called norms which state or religion maybe has set itself. When we say there is economical problem, for example, let your women stand up, give them their rights, they can contribute into the betterment of society, and also it is a good opportunity for the government to boost their economy, for example. So, for example, if you are not giving them sufficient rights, you are just, you know, putting them inside the homes and you are asking them to stay home and do nothing. In that way, you are also controlling them. Let them do work, let them go outside, maybe provide them a forum, and you know, there must be a lot of opportunities for the women to go study. A good education, that's also their right, but you know they can also contribute in the economy, for example, because you said like there is a problem. Yeah, yes, there are problems in Afghanistan which are going on, and it's really critical. But you know, we women, we can also contribute for the betterment of society and also the economic of any country. So if we will provide them sufficient opportunities, we are not saying them to stay back and just, you know, take care of the kids at home and prepare the food and everything. And then we are also trying to control them. When we will give them sufficient rights and the freedoms, they can move, they can go out, they can you know, study, and they can get better education. And it is a way, it is directly linked to the betterment, you know. So they can also participate, and maybe the economy can boost. So these are also the other thing. I don't see, giving them or damage their, you know, personal autonomy in that way. And I see no harm. I don't know if you agree with me, but yeah, it can contribute definitely.
So we've got a very quick, and then we're going to have to wrap up. Sorry.
So the women's, those who are going on the streets and fighting for their rights, they prefer to die to have Taliban. They are living under Taliban regime and have a bread to eat. They are preferring death as having bread. I have to say this.
What a choice to have to make. So we're going to. Oh, we have to oh gosh, yes, of course we do. Oh, let the questions begin. I don't know why I thought that. Thank you. So, okay, so is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I have
Now you've got all the time in the world now.
Because the people, these women are going on the street, they are standing in front of the Taliban, and we know who are they. They are very brutal. Even they are shoot them directly, but they are getting, they have also some arrestments. They arrested women, they tortured them, they raped them. So they did everything. But even right now, we just see that 3 and 4 days ago, even all this happened, the women go to the street and had the demonstration and won their rights. And that's why the people, on also mostly women, they prefer they die with a pride, but didn't accept this brutal regime, or that there isn't any dignity for them to have a bread, to have something to eat. But I think they prefer to die to have. It's a clear citation. It's a clear image that they give the world and also us all.
Thank you. When we come to that question of choice and actually lack of choices, to have to choose between those two things is not enough, is it? So, women in the middle, you've been very patient, and we've got 15 more minutes.
Okay, great. I'm Arzu Naibi. I'm from Afghanistan. I've been born and grew up in Afghanistan a few years. I'm living in Germany as a journalist working. I just can support Sara Jan, everything that you say. And first of all, I want to say that I'm really sorry to see the European country, that American country, and most of the country in the world, they are not really supporting the women in Afghanistan. When you see how the women are suffering in this country, Afghanistan is the first and the only country now in 2022 that the women don't have a basic life in this country. And I'm really sorry to see lots of the feminists and the people who supporting feminists and women in European countries, that they are in freedom or American or whatever. And I haven't seen since 1 year and the demonstration on the street of European country just to support and to show that we are here and we can see you and we support you. Of course, if you see the politics, what they did with the women in Afghanistan in this 20 years, and now when the American are sitting and negotiating with the Taliban, there was no American woman got to a street and said, please don't ignore, we are women. And why American women were not in this table negotiating with the Taliban? They ignored Afghan people, Afghan women, and nobody talk about it. And now since 1 year, they just ignoring. And now I'm really sorry to hear that is it better to recognize Taliban as a government or not? Of course not. You don't have this wrong. You don't have this right to say from European country, from outside of the country, if the women of the people in Afghanistan, they should have become a government like Taliban. Of course not. Taliban is a terrorist group. How should we accept it? And if you try to choose the group like Taliban, government for us in Afghanistan, why you're going and voting for your democratic government? Why? What is that? Can you stop, please, these games with our lives?
Thank you. And Inga's in the middle there. We were talking about this the other day, about how this idea that for certain groups of people or groups of women, liberation is meant to look somehow different. We want liberation for all. Are there any other women who've got questions or contributions? Yourself in the front?
I actually want to say something with regard to how do we address feminists who ally with religious right and far right, with regard to what you said about don't underestimate women and how they can contribute to the economy and how they can contribute to their country. I think those are the ways that we can find common ground with some of these women, is that they have a role to play in their economy, regardless of what they believe about hijab or women staying at home, that they are part of the country. And I think that your point was really valid about making them see that they have a role to play beyond just what the religion said. And you said that Sara, that they're defined by the religion rather than defined by the government as to who they are, their personhood. And I think by allowing them to understand, finding common ground about how we can contribute, that gives them personhood rather than being defined by the religion, which I think, and I grew up Jewish, that the way that women, at least that I understood it, there's men are people and women are just women. So if you understand and you find a common ground with people, it gives them a sense of personhood outside of the religion. I don't know if I'm being clear on this, but I just do think that that might be a way to find some common ground with people who are far right or who disagree with some women's rights, that you have something to contribute to the country together.
Thank you. Does anybody, you don't get the... It's her. I thought you were going to take it there.
I just want to clarify that I do not actually support recognizing the Taliban as a government. I was more just like, wanted to throw out a more complicated question. Yeah, no, fuck the Taliban.
Can I say something?
Yes.
It's more like a statement and then a question would probably follow. The fact that feminism in Western circles, and sometimes when it comes to the issue of hijab and the women's march, because that's the elephant in the room that we're not talking about, the women's march had been originally a very admirable feminist movement for me personally. I don't know if anyone is aware, but sometime last year in the Netherlands, I was disinvited to an event from the Women's March because I was going to talk about against the hijab. And the issue was that there were other women who would probably attend this event who were pro-hijab, so I was problematic. So I don't think that, so I think that addresses a little bit to how do we address feminists who ally with the religious right and the far-right agendas. I don't know about far-right agendas, but the religious right, because I consider religion and Islam as a right, religious right movement that wants to control women. So I'd like the contribution of the panelists about what they think about this issue of women's march and being very pro-hijab.
Good question, thank you. Who wants to pick up on that one?
I think in the West, the women here, they don't have the same feeling or suffering from the women coming from Muslim country. If you don't suffer there, if you don't live there, if no one steal your childhood from you, how you can feeling about the feeling to not wearing hijab and support this idea? You support this idea because you don't try it. I think no one has the right to support hijab if this person didn't try the hijab for 10 or 20 years. After that, he can tell us an opinion about that, but not before.
And I think that when you're getting this movement, so the women's marches, some of them have thousands and thousands and thousands. So you're starting to see women gathering. You're starting to see solidarity between women. And there's going to be stuff coming at you. And we can see this in many different ways where women are getting organized, that resistance to women organizing. And so we have to be really mindful of that. And how do we navigate this and not split everything that's going on? There's a woman up there who's had her hand up for quite a long time.
I wanted only to say to you that there are feminists who support your freedom from hijab. So we are not maybe so loud like others, but we are here. We understand everything. So
Inga. And whilst we're getting the microphone to Inga, I'll talk about bodily autonomy. We're in a country that is supportive of prostitution. And as a feminist, I would like to say 90% of women want to leave the sex trade. So we need feminists to be talking out about that more as well. And men, I always take up the opportunity when men are in the audience, do not go home and look at porn, because you cannot be part of the liberation movement if you are going off and doing that. I don't want to use that word.
Yeah, thank you. I mean,
using pornography, which is about the subjugation of women. Okay, so I'm just going to get that in there. Oh, you've got the mic now. I'll shut up.
There are very many ways of controlling women and women's sexuality, and pornography and prostitution is also one of those. But I wanted to do something else. I mean, because I agree with you about this spectacular lack of support for Afghan women. And since we are so many women here, and even if we're in different countries, can we use coffee break on how to organize a demonstration? So we can just meet around you and start organizing it, and please come. So that's the suggestion, because we are here now, so what better could we be doing? The other things are just questions which tie in, some are pedestrian. How do you feel about ideas like banning a hijab, for example, in schools? A German women's organization called Terre des Femmes made that decision, but it's really been chucked out of many discussions. And they said, on the basis of reports from women of Afghanistan and Iran, should it be banned for students or not for children in schools? How do you feel about it? Because it's such a hot topic here. And the other one goes back to alliances with the political right, because Women's March and everything, we've been so let down by all of those who should be our allies. We have been so let down. I mean, the Taz newspaper here is a major left newspaper, and it had an awful article on Afghanistan. It began by attacking Masih Anijad and went on to saying that the hijab is not a problem and liberation is different and it's just a colonialist idea that women and so on. So since all of these who should be our allies have let us down, sometimes conservatives, I'm not talking about open right-wing, but conservatives look so attractive. So how do you feel about political movements having alliances with conservatives and being to the right?
So we've only got 2 minutes left. Do any of you want to pick up on any of those questions from Inga? How do you feel? What was the first one, Inga? How do you feel about banning hijab?
Maybe less important for children.
How do you feel about banning hijab? Where? In schools?
I think it was your point. If you want, I can also...
Yeah, well, I never support this idea of wearing hijab, especially for the little girls in the schools. You know, I already mentioned that these are the decisions of the decision makers, for example, and there is a huge influence of these Islamic clerics, and it should not happen. So what we can do, we can only, you know, educate those, maybe those decision makers sometime. There should be some kind of conversations and also panels or maybe the conferences initially maybe on a low level where we can address directly these issues and tell them that how worst it is to put hijabs on those little girls in the schools, you know, and they are also committing a kind of crime, for example. Because I mentioned it several times in my conversation that a child, a little girl, does not know why she is putting hijab there in her head, for example. You are trying to control them, their body. You are taking either intentionally or unintentionally their self-identity away. Let them discover themselves, for example. Let them reach to a certain age and then they can take their decisions. And also, I already mentioned that for the mother, it is really important. Never give such instructions, because I know how does it feel, because I was always instructed to cover my face, for example, my head, for example. Yeah, I was not allowed to remove my hijab. And I know how terrible it is, because because in that way I felt myself different from other women, for example, if I watch it on the television or, you know, other women. But it feels really disgusting. Shouldn't happen. So maybe there's also an idea or a way to address these issues initially, maybe on a lower level, and then we can just, you know, implement those ideas, those issues, and also the solutions on a higher level and address to those issues. So we do not support this idea of hijab in the schools. Shouldn't happen.
Thank you, thank you. So we're going to draw it to a close now. Can we all just say a huge thank you to the very brave women on the audience, on the panel here. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Big hand for everyone. Thank you, Lisa, for hosting. Thank you so much.